Welcome to the Coffee and Questions podcast. I am your host, Michelle Berman-Michael, and my mission with this podcast is simple: to help realtors and loan officers across the world tap into the value Instagram can have for them and their business. To me, organic business that comes to us is the name of the game. On this show, you're going to hear from myself, other experts across social media, and also others that are just like you, selling real estate and doing loans and doing it at a high level on social media. Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee and Questions podcast. I am joined today by Justin Stoddard. Justin, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast finally.
It's a pleasure, by the way. It's so fun to be with you. I know I've had you on my podcast multiple times, and you've absolutely wowed the audience, as you always do. And so it's fun to now be on the other side of the table.
What I'm really excited about is you have this model called the Upstream Model, and we've talked offline about this a lot. And my podcast, of course, is how do we use Instagram to generate more business for ourselves? And one of the things that you have done so well is created this concept of the Upstream Model and how we can then tie that into social. So let's back up a little bit and talk about specifically what is the Upstream Model. So if someone wants to go buy this book, why are they buying it? And if you could just elaborate on kind of how that then transcends into your coaching side of things, I think it would be really interesting to get us started.
You bet. Love it. So if you think about, like, when I quiz agents all over the country, I ask them, would you prefer to have a big warm market business? In other words, people calling you saying, do you have time to come list my property? Versus, here's a list of names, call them and find those people who will agree to meet with you, right? And I've kind of dramatized that, right? But the point is pretty clear, is that people prefer to work in warm market over cold market, right? And the only problem with warm market is that we just simply run out of warm market referrals. Otherwise, we would just answer the phone all day long and go list properties all day long. Like there's no other reason why we would be, unless we were total masochists, right? And just enjoyed people being mad at us. Like, we would all day long prefer to have people call us and be excited to work with us. So how do we then address that problem of how do I get more of them? Because what we aren't willing to do, people like you and I, especially Michelle, and the people that follow you, I'm sure, are not willing to say, well, I'm going to settle my goals down to the level of my warm referrals. I'll just find out who my friends and family, like how many deals that they want to serve and past clients, and I'll just settle my goals in there. That's not how goals work, folks. That's default. That's not by intention. That's not for ambitious people like all of us. That's for people who settle in life, and that's not us. And so how do you then stay in a warm market business model without settling? Well, the Upstream Model answers that question. It really came down to when I was a former land developer home builder. I was new to the business, and now I knew what I was doing. I had been trained by a great professional, and I was stepping out into my own business. And I got to a point where I had some warm business coming in, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't as much as I wanted it to. And I realized really quickly that I wasn't okay with settling for less. And I did what all the gurus told me: build a big database of all my friends and family, do notes, calls, pop-bys, all those things. And the problem was my database was 25 years old, like I was at the time, and they weren't referring $1 million custom home projects. Now, regardless of whether you're selling small homes or big homes, if you are ambitious, you'll come to a point where your warm market is tapped and they aren't giving you any more referrals, right, at the pace that you want to receive them. So what do you do? That's the exact question that I was faced with. Like, do I start advertising? Do I start cold calling? Like, what's a way for me to get more business? And I'm like a warm market guy by nature. I love relationships. I love connecting with people, not just doing transactions. And I had this thought, despite what all the kind of gurus and coaches were teaching me, I recognized that there was somebody in the marketplace who was dealing with the client before that client needed me. That professional was upstream. So if you could picture the marketplace being a stream, right? And clients are moving from one professional to the next to get a certain service taken care of, certain needs and concerns taken care of. There are professionals that are in relationship with your future clients before they go talking to you or your competitors. For me as a home builder, it was an architect. An architect was naturally dealing with his clients. He wasn't a competitor, and he had all the clients I wanted. And I thought, why don't I just go get business from him? And it was a good idea, but it was very poorly executed because I went in with, let me go see what I can get from him. And that's where most professionals really go wrong. And they're like, I love the idea of getting business from a professional. Now, as a real estate agent, it might be a probate attorney, it might be a CPA, it might be an insurance agent, it might be a lender, it might be whatever, right? All kinds of professionals are dealing with your next client, and those clients are going to need you next. But most agents, when they hear this thought and this idea, they turn off the recording right now and they say, I got it. And they run out to their next professional with their hand out, saying the cute little phrase that they've been taught, which is, I'm never too busy for referrals. In other words, I'm showing up to get something from you. Now, that works when it's your friends and family. That line has been proven. It works with people who already love you. But when it's a business professional who doesn't, it's not the right model. It doesn't work. They're not interested in giving you because you haven't given anything in return. There's no relationship there. And so the Upstream model teaches agents a very simple 5-step process to unlocking those key upstream relationships to where you can get not just a couple referrals a year, which you'd expect from your really good close clients, but you can get a couple referrals a month, right? Potentially a couple referrals a week, depending upon who it is.
There's so much to unpack there. And I have so many things in my brain. I just had to take notes because I'm like, I need this for the show notes so that people know how amazing this is. But one of the things, 2 things really that I heard you say that I want to make note of. One of them is a question. One of them is an observation. So the observation is we have to go to where our clients are first, right? Before they know that they need us, we have to go to where they are initially making contact to a professional that then knows us, right? And a great example that you mentioned was your insurance agents, your roofers, right? I feel like roofers is a really untapped potential for real estate agents because roofers need real estate agents as much as a real estate agent needs a roofer. I think home inspectors is equally up there. And I think if you really dive into that, there's a lot of potential there. But one of the things that I loved about what you said is that don't walk in there with the expectation of a handout, because in reality, they're going to look at you and be like, cool, like, I don't even know you. Who are you? So there's a point that I want to make on that one. Now, the second piece to this, or the question I then have for you, is if we're going to the professionals, right? The people who get the person's business before they then go to the real estate agent. What are you saying without giving away your 5 steps? Because people need to go buy your book, but what are the kind of ways that you would tell them, if you could share what that conversation might look like so that it doesn't come across as, hey, I want all of your referrals, send it to me.
Yeah, I love it. Happy to share that. So here's the principle that first and foremost we need to understand is that when you show up in someone's life soliciting as a solicitor, you will get treated as such. You'll get treated as a solicitor. And it gets hard to recover from that. The doorway through which you walk into somebody's life matters, and it brands you. And it takes time to rebrand yourself as somebody different than a solicitor. So if you're getting this great idea right now of, you know what, an insurance agent has the potential to send me a lot of referrals every month, which they do not just go walk in their office with a stack of business cards and a brochure and say, hey, if any of your clients need a real estate agent, please have them think of me, which seems totally reasonable, right? Like we're probably laughing is like, that's probably what a lot of agents do, right? It's like, absolutely. It's like, that doesn't sound too bad. And it's not bad.
That's what they're taught.
Totally.
To your point, that's what they're taught, right?
Yep.
Like, and people's emails, we get those emails all the time, right? Because we accidentally end up on everybody's email list. But in the email, it will literally say, I'm never too busy for your referrals. And it's like a stamp at the bottom of all their emails. I think that between you and I think we need to combust this. That's a good idea, because while it is, as you said, the databases eventually get tapped, and also the databases eventually get really irritated by it.
Totally. And it, like I said, it works with your friends, your neighbor, like the people who already love you. They're like, well, of course, I don't want to forget. I want to use you. But as soon as you expand beyond that, and that's what we're talking about here today, is how to scale a warm market business, how to actually grow up beyond who you know, right? So when you take that cute line and apply it to a professional, it doesn't work, nor the tactics of here's some cards, please refer me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go follow my guests on social media. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us a review wherever you consume this content.